Hello and welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Mass. We have Team Hammerfist on Selesnya Depths. Of course, Hammerfist Giant Ravnica Limited Monster. Don't have any copies in Selesnya Depths, however, just green-white. Flashing red for Minskin Boo, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. They could run Hammerfist, but apparently tight list, can't find the room. Elvish Reclaimer gives long-term potential. Be able to assemble that Dark Depths combo, which is probably at its worst versus Death and Taxes. They have about a million ways to answer the 2020 Merit Lage. Despite it being indestructible, they can bounce it with Karakas. They can Swords to Plowshares, Solitude, and all of those things get stopped by Sylvan Safekeeper. So there you go. Sylvan Safekeeper going to be able to carry some serious responsibility in this match. Playing defense, keeping key cards alive at the cost of sacrificing a land. Joe representing the Pornhub surfers here on, it's actually not Death and Taxes. Both things wrong. The name and the deck. It's actually Yorion and Taxes. As we can see, that giant sky noodle waiting to generate card advantage, waiting in the wings. Massive flying body. Also legendary, so you can bounce it with Karakas and just generate crazy amounts of value with all your ETB creatures, and there's no shortage of them in Death and Taxes. Skyclave Apparition, Recruiter of the Guard, Flicker Wisp, you name it. Right now, Vile will put in a Mother of Runes. Both players with very defensive cards on board. Really difficult to get anything off the board once it sticks. Neither of these decks able to interfere with the stack. So this is going to potentially be a slugfest. Both players just throwing whatever they want out there. And neither player going to really be able to remove anything without real commitment to resources. Mother of Runes, you'll have to sacrifice multiple removal in order to get something off the board. Or a Sylvan Safekeeper, I mean, you have to have more removal than they have lands. Of course, sacrificing your entire mana base is not without consequence. Sylvan Library. Also looking to generate card advantage. Now, what just happened there? It looked like a Ghost Quarter just took out Dryad Arbor. Is this list only on 2 basics? Interesting. Could be on only 2 basics. Could have been sacrificed to the Sylvan Safekeeper. Interesting. Sylvan. Gotta be careful there. Don't want those cards going to hand. You need to keep them separate. Cards that don't go back on top of the library are going to cost 4 life. And, you know, he's just going to do it. Taking them all. Bajuka Ball getting discarded for Mox Diamond. Yavimaya. Which is also a little bit of mana acceleration in this deck. Yavimaya can turn Dark Depths into a forest, allowing it to tap for green. Or adding forest to its type. Doesn't make it a forest. Well, it doesn't, it doesn't. Depends on how we're defining things. But Stoneforge Mystic, tutoring up in Umezawa's Jite. That's an interesting way. That can certainly generate a bunch of ways of removing Sylvan Safekeeper. All right. Go. This is a very dangerous card. Often the equipment that I least like to see when I'm playing Cephalid Breakfast. That deck has a bunch of X1s as well. Sylvan Safekeeper looking very fragile at the moment, but Joe's mana base not cooperating. He's just on 2 lands right now. Oh, there's another land. A lot has happened in this compressed game so far. Other Mother of Runes can really hold down the fort. I guess that's another way of dealing with the Merit Lage if it comes to that. Potentially be able to block indefinitely, giving a flyer like Flicker Wisp protection from black. Of course, Flicker Wisp is an excellent answer to the Merit Lage. Well, if you can handle that Sylvan Safekeeper. Bush Reclaimer goes searching. Having, I believe, a Flagstones. A little bit of a value engine here. With the Sylvan Library and an active Elvish Reclaimer, Team Hammerfist may be able to be very selective with those top cards, eventually shuffling each turn, getting the best of the top three. Of course, fetch lands make that even easier. At the very least, the Elvish Reclaimer can make it happen. They're going to be able to enter thanks to Stoneforge Mystic's activated ability. Go keeping up mana. Go end step. Equipment on board. Has a decision about ticking up, opts not to. I didn't even notice that Flicker Wisp. I am not sure when that entered the battlefield. But it is picked up the GT, and Endurance is flashed in. Of course, Mother of Runes can still make it survive, and those counters will still be added. Confirming it doesn't have to hit the player. GT, one of the absolute best limited cards of all time. My goodness, if you had that draft deck full of garbage creatures, you probably still win. I mean, so unbelievably brutal on offense and defense. Finding some value with flagstones, but he is facing down a very serious clock. Not liking Team Hammerfist's chances here. Caracas on the other side of the board as well. This is pretty gruesome. Over fairly soon. Enough lands to keep up with the whole situation. Adding additional counters to the GT, targeting Sylvan Safekeeper. Eventually, you're going to run out of lands. You're probably dead before then to combat damage too. I'm not actually even sure what the best way to go is. I would probably try and get the Sylvan Safekeeper off the board. Mostly because blocking the Merit Lage isn't super easy. The ability to tutor up Sajiri's Step can allow that Merit Lage to punch through, even though you have a blocker, eventually. And Cauldra. All right, that'll do it. Cauldra, give that some pro green, turn it sideways. That is likely to be a wrap. We've got Fruiter of the Guard as well. Grabbing a Flicker Wisp, perhaps just in case. We are on to the next game. That was pretty one-sided towards the end. I mean, Death and Taxes, a very brutal deck versus the combo Team Hammerfist will have the play. This deck can potentially make a 20/20 on the second turn. Not a line that you typically want to take. Runes and Caracas. Thespian Stage, Mox Diamond. Some acceleration, and we have a turn 2 to the Reliquary. Of course, that land going into the graveyard for Mox Diamond. Pumping it up. And Lion Sash. Alright, these are lining up very interactive cards here. Knight of the Reliquary cares about the number of cards, lands in Team Hammerfist's graveyard. Lion Sash can be able to remove those lands at the cost of 1 mana, also growing the artifact. And Minsk in Boo. Probably don't love that. The Minsk and Boo came out, made a hamster, and then grew the hamster. Probably would have rather seen never mind. Thinking he was going to attack with the Knight of the Reliquary. He only attacked with the hamster. Trample and Haste. Card's absolutely bonkers. Those unfamiliar, when Minsk and Boo enters the battlefield, beginning of your and at the beginning of your upkeep, you may create a Boo legendary 1/1 red hamster creature token with trample and haste. You're basically paying 4 mana for a 4/4 haste with trample. Unbelievable. Then the minus is crazy. I mean, you sack the hamster and deal X damage where X is its power. Draw X cards. You don't have to sacrifice the hamster. It's also in there because you can sacrifice your Dark Depths. Fling it at your opponent if they do have blockers. Not going right so far. Force that game 3. I mean, sacrificing a hamster and drawing 7. I mean, that is unreal. And you still have the Minsk and Boo on board at that point. Like, thinking about whether or not to just go for it. Sending. No. Activate. Just making it a Dark Depths. So while the other side is completely tapped out, making a 20/20, and that is a wrap. Forcing game number 3. Minsk and Boo is not a card I want to see on the other side of the table. Incredibly powerful printing from Baldur's Gate. Card actually I have a tough time keeping in stock. I've had in, I don't know, maybe dozen of them, somewhere in there. Haven't had like hundreds of them. They just go. Card is very serious. Price is ticking up, so I don't suspect I'll continue to have a difficult time keeping it in stock. As prices tick up, people tend to sell those cards into the store, trade in for the stuff that they definitely want. Turns out Minsk and Boo is a card that legacy players want. I am not sure that's what they were thinking when they made the card. It would be legacy playable, but it certainly is. The Dark Depths showed up. making in the 2020 to end that last game. This game looking very similar to game 1 with Elvish Reclaimer and Aether Vial. Elvish Reclaimer is an incredible printing. One of the few cards that I've actually spec'd on in recent memory. Whoa. Not just a force of negation, a force of vigor. I think it was. I think we just saw Force of Vigor taking out Aether Vial before it was able to tick up. Not a ton of value there. Losing 2 cards to get rid of your opponent's 1 casting cost artifact is a very interesting decision. It may be 100% correct. Aether Vial is very, very dangerous on the other side of the table. Of course, there's always that temptation. Hold off until your opponent gets something like a Lion Sash, Umezawa's Jite, another Aether Vial, Urza's Saga. I mean, there's so many different things. Get value thanks to your Force of Vigor. Force on taxes to play Air Magic Skyclave, Stone Rains. Gets rid of the Savannah. A Wasteland. This is actually a play that I witnessed in person. Wouldn't have played the Wasteland here. I actually would have played Thespian Stage. It does allow you to potentially fade out Forest for a Yavimaya. And then drop a Dark Depths the next turn. Here getting a Flagstone's going to go the long way around the block. So Flagstones can be sacrificed without going down on the number of lands. That's being this turn. Some inevitability here. Elvish Reclaimer will eventually create a 2020 Dark Depths, or Merit Lage from Dark Depths, I should say. A Green Sun Zenith X equals 0, so just going to get Dryad Arbor. Hands on board. Dryad Arbor. Sylvan Safekeeper. Stay alive. We have already seen Mizawa's Jite. And Yorion. So I believe Yorion flickered the Skyclave. A land was sacked to prevent that from actually mattering. Worth noting that Skyclave cannot hit tokens. $2020 is on board. Yorion can potentially just be a speed bump here. Probably not. There's got to be Sajiri's Step. Break on through. Joe really wants like a Swords to Plowshares just to gain a little bit of life. Actually, a little dicey. So if it wasn't for these other creatures, it would be totally reasonable to potentially block the Merit Lage kind of indefinitely, depending on how many steps there are on the other side. If there's only one copy, then you may not be able to punch through twice. But there are a handful of other bodies, so even if you go, we're able to get up a bit higher. There's a Caracas. That can interact. Of course, you can block and bounce as well. Eternal Dragon goes up. Seems like this Merit Lage is just going to get through. Siding round 1 of the Team Unified Legacy Open. Playset rule applies to the entire team. I believe this Yorion and Taxes build actually on Ghost Quarter instead of Wasteland. Different deck on the acquiring Wastelands. Sacrificing Sajiri Step. And that's going to do it. All right, there we go. So pro-white, turning sideways, Yorion is in fact white, as well as blue. So 2020 connecting for lethal for Selesnya Adepts.